You can all see one screen, right?
Yes, yes.
We'll get started. So welcome to everyone on this beautiful snowy day, snowy evening. Om
Sahana Vavatu Sahanam Punaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadi
Namastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Graditam Purana Muninam Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Vridavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatvam Anusandadhami Bhagavad Gita Bhavatveshini. Namostute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Pullara Vindayata Patra Nedra Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Prajvalito Jnanamayah Pradipaha Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetraika Panaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Geetamritaduhe Namaha. Sarvadharman Paritrajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tva Sarva Papebhyaha Mokshayishyami Ma Shuchaha. So again, welcome everyone. We are on the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita here. And we have seen that the journey from the first chapter to the 4th chapter is actually, it is allowing us to integrate our personality. From, the level in the first chapter where we saw Arjuna, where he cared more about not necessarily himself, but about his own family, right? So in that sense, he was thinking only at a very individual level. He saw the gain, he saw the loss in everything we do. And so it was at that level which we can many times relate ourselves to. And then we moved on to the 2nd and the 3rd chapters, where we were introduced to really the highest philosophy. And from there on, we were told about how, it is only because we are so attached to what is in it for me, what is the result of our actions, that we forget why we do things. And that is why the Sarva Dharman Parityajya is such an important aspect, which is giving up that attachment to the result and surrendering to the higher ideal. So in this chapter of 4th chapter, which is called the Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga, we're moving up one level. We're moving from that level of attachment to actually where we are understanding who is the person who is attached to it. So very powerful, isn't it? So far, we think that, I'm the one who's attached to everything and all that, and I have to give up that attachment. But we need to define who is that I. That is very important. Who is that person who has to give up the attachment? Who is the person who is the doer? Who is the person who is that karta? So you will see in this shloka, in 4th chapter, again, powerful concepts coming out, but they are all kind of more relatable, sort of unlike the 2nd chapter. Unlike chapter, we were floating way high. But in 4th chapter, things that we've always heard when we were very young, about the fact that God will come down, and then all this caste system, all these things. So we are trying to get that in the 4th chapter. So by the concepts which is there in the 4th chapter, we will see how we are actually going to diminish, lower the sense of I-ness and minus. And we are going more and more towards this Ishwara principle. Who is really this Ishwara? For many of us, again, growing up, we always, okay, there was a God room in the house. We just did our namaskar. We went to the temple, and we sort of recognized, again, God in a bigger form, as Venkateshwara and everyone. But in this chapter, we try to understand really who is that Ishwara principle. Very important from that aspect. So in our reflection time today, I'm taking the 3 questions that was brought up during the during a last session. The first one is what Meena had brought up, which is our birth and rebirth based on our punyam, all the merits, and all the demerits, or all the problems, all the mistakes that we did in our present birth? And how is our birth different from God's birth? So we addressed this to some extent last time, and I would like to hear from all of you a little bit. This is kind of, an engaging kind of a thing, because it's reflection, and then, I'll give whatever probably was not well understood, and we will take it from there. So please go ahead, Geeta.
Oh, finish it. You were finishing. You were saying something. Go ahead.
No. I was only going to the question. So go ahead.
No, what is God's birth? I didn't understand.
Different from God's birth. Like, for example, sometimes we hear of Rama. I mean, the avatars, right? So we had Rama, who we say that that principle, Ishwara, took birth as Rama, and then took birth as Krishna. But the question is very, very powerful. We will come to that aspect, as you really hit a nail on the head when you asked, what do we mean by God's birth? God is always there, right? That is why you're saying, what is God's birth? Good. So let's take that first question. Is our birth and rebirth based really upon our punyam and papam that we do in the present birth? Well, that the question can be worded a little differently. And I took exactly the question what Meena put on the WhatsApp. But here we can say, is our birth and rebirth based on what we did in our past birth? That would be the better way to say it. So in the present birth, whatever we are experiencing, is it because of something we did in the past? So any thoughts on this?
Yes, that is true. It's based on our vasanas, on what we have to exhaust in this world. So it's based on what we did, we get in the past life, that's what we get. And
right.
But yeah.
Anything more? That is true. It is based on what we did in the past, which became a kind of a vasana, and so we are born, right? Yeah. Any other thoughts?
Hari Om, Sunitha ji, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Amlan.
Yeah, we have the
I think
accumulated births also coming in, no?
Yes,
not only the immediate one.
Correct. Correct. It is also even before that. Who knows how many births we have gone through, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. And Amlan, you please go ahead.
Yeah, what I was thinking is there are 3 major factors of karma. I'll switch on the video maybe. Yeah, so one is Sanchita karma, and then Prarabdha karma and Kriyaman karma. These three main categories. And then Kriyaman karma is basically the current, what we are doing, we get immediate result. And the Sanchita karma and the Prarabdha, actually, I think the major factor for birth and rebirth. So based on that, I think based on karmas, basically Sanchita karma and Prarabdha is basically the past life, whatever we did, based on that it happened. So based on that, I think what kind of Prarabdha we are going to get in next birth, I think God's, based on his calculation and plan, he decides, okay, this much of Prarabdha you're going to exhaust in your next birth. And that is how I think it is get decided what kind of birth you're going to get.
Very good.
And God's birth, I think, as you mentioned, I think we are born, we are always under the illusion of Maya, but God born, but they are not under the Maya. I think they work like a normal human being like us, but they are above the Maya, and they know all the details of this universe and all the like whatever we are trying to study. They already know it, but for us we don't know, and we are trying to learn and study. That is, I think, one difference.
Very good. Very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, in a sense, somebody else wanted to say something. So for today's, I'm making a little more of a discussion. So, because we got all these concepts, and we need to make sure these concepts are really getting into our head, right? Any other thoughts from anybody before I say a few things?
God has a.
Go ahead, Meenu.
Yeah.
No, I think Anand wanted to say something.
Yeah.
Sorry. Unlike us, for God's birth, there is a reason and there is a purpose. So all the avatars are, to kill a demon, or to give jnana. So everything is for a purpose and for a cause. Whereas for us, we are in the cycle of birth and death to exhaust our vasanas, and the goal is ultimately to attain the moksha.
Very good.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
God chooses to take birth. We have no choice.
Yes.
We have to come. And then I think God can kill the demon even while from up there, while we can blow on it. But he just wants to show the path of Dharma to us, to teach us how to live this life, so that we know how to, because somebody has to show us.
Yes.
Because we learn by some example. So that's why God comes and takes birth. And he has a choice when he can leave this earth, when he can come on this earth, but we don't have. We are bound by our karmas.
Very good. Very good. That was just so beautiful. That is the whole aspect of Paritranaya. We'll be coming into that about,
Actually,
yeah, go ahead.
Actually, we are in Kali Yuga, and there's no God's birth now. So what she said was right. Like right now, I mean, even though we know that adharma is above everything, all dharmas and all that. So, I mean, God has to only, punish or whatever it is, only because there's no birth from now onward. That's what Krishna said. I mean, he's done. There's no more rebirth for him. But there is a supreme power, and based on that, we have to just carry on with our life. That's what I feel.
Very good. Very good. So this is a birth and rebirth based on punyam and papam. Absolutely, because as even Amlan mentioned, and we are really, and even Meenu, we are really consumed by our own Maya. Now, what is Maya? Maya is basically my own perception of things in front of me. I make a certain perception based upon my own likes and dislikes. I like something, I don't dislike something, or I dislike something. From this, I develop a kind of perception, And based on this perception, I tend to do my actions in the world. For example, somebody dark, comes in front of me, I immediately, think, oh my God, what is happening to me or whatever, and I start running and everything. The person may be just coming to help me, and I don't look at it that way or whatever. So why did I run? It is because of the amount of way I made my thinking to happen that I have to run, right? So based on this kind of likes and dislikes, my perceptions develop. And based on this, I tend to do the same action over and over and over again. And when I do this, I automatically, this one birth is not enough to correct my thinking. So I am given one more birth or many births until I correct my thinking and have that thinking that we are all one. So this is, I'm just explaining in a very, very simplistic fashion about this aspect of why we continuously give birth, or why we are born. So our birth and rebirth is constantly based upon the aspect of this thinking which makes us do things over and over again, either in a positive way, which leads to punyam, or the merits, or things that we accumulate, which helps me to move forward. And or on the other hand, through my own selfish actions, when I do things which tends to pull me down. So that is the aspect of it. Now, with regard to Bhagavan, Bhagavan's birth, God's birth, again, how it was beautifully said, Meenu said it, God takes birth for many reasons. We have said that before. And it is purely out of her or his choice that they come to this world. And they are also, the difference in their births is, number one, God is so all-powerful. I mean, think about it, in all ways, all-powerful, all-knowing, all-knowledge, all-shakti, everything is there. So they don't, even when they take a birth, they are aware of that omniscient power, that supreme power who they are. Whereas we are only aware of our very limited power. We think we are this alpa, small thing, the small mosquito or whatever. That's what we think we are. We don't think more than that. So the birth in that sense is very different for both ourselves. Again, we talked about, and it happens to us too many times. We tend to do certain actions based upon the need. And sometimes we may do just because we want to do it. That's where God operates from. They do it because there is a need for somebody else, or because they love it. Maybe a devotee was calling out to him and said, I really want to see you. So he will take a birth for that purpose, nothing for himself or herself. So this is how I would look at this whole two questions here. The next question is Amlan's, where he said, we come across all these terms: Brahman, God, Krishna, Ishwara, Jiva. How is each one related or different? And Amlan, I was going to have a big diagram and everything, but I thought if I put anything on paper, that may raise more questions. So first, I'm going to explain it in words, and we will see how we can come up with a diagram. If someone here can come up with a nice diagram, that would also be very creative on how we can look at it. So first of all, we have to be aware of, simple terms. Again, I don't want to go into religion, or I want to take it in a very logical process. First of all, there is something called microscopic and something called macroscopic. Something which is small and something which is an aggregate of each one of these individual things. Like, for example, we say one brick, and we have multiple bricks making up a big wall, correct? So one brick is a micro part of it, whereas a wall, which is made of many bricks, is actually a macroscopic way, right? Now, imagine if we were to start with, I'm going to do it in both ways, going from top down to bottoms up. So let us start from where we understand each one of us. Each one of us is like that one brick. Now imagine in this world of 84 lakhs of types of people, types of beings, this is only beings we are talking about. Now, this entire 84 lakhs of kind of bricks, this is types of bricks, not just this one brick or whatever, types of bricks. This whole thing together really constitutes this entire universe, or even beyond that. I mean, think about all these galaxies, think about even beyond what we all know, right? That is at macroscopic level. Now, imagine if all of them put together is like one whole. So microscopically, we have the small brick, macroscopically, we have this huge thing. So that's the relation between a jiva and between, like, maybe you can say Krishna, okay, Krishna, that aspect. So the only difference is I think of myself as this one brick, whereas Krishna is this big wall who knows everything. He knows all the bricks. He has all the power of all the bricks. He has all the knowledge of everything. He knows everything which is happening in each one of those bricks. That's how Krishna is, in that form, the gross form. Okay. Now, how is Krishna related to Ishwara? Now, Krishna is a form of Ishwara who has taken for that particular period of time. So, for example, today I may have this one big brick, a big wall for usage of my house. But 50 years from now, somebody is going to come back and say, this wall is not needed. I'm going to put another wall, which has got different kind of properties. It has to be much more stronger or anything. So this is how Ishwara takes this first wall, which was, I'm just saying this, for example, Rama, okay? When Rama took birth, he had, they say, 12 kalas, okay? But then later when Krishna took birth, he took birth with like 16 kalas. So you needed a stronger wall to fit that different time, okay? So that's the big wall. So we have the big wall first, which was Rama, Now the next time you need a stronger wall with a different type of properties. So that is how Ishwara takes birth as Krishna or as Rama or anything. So that is the element of what we say here. Now, in all these, we are looking at them with a particular form, which is we call as sakara, and also with a particular gunas. So saguna and sakara, that's how we say saguna and sakara are the forms of this macroscopic aspect of God, and they're in the gross form because we want to see them. Because if they come without a form or anything, we would not be able to see them, right? So that is why we have Krishna and Rama as physical manifestations of that Ishwara, who also is actually, with attributes. That is one thing we have to remember. Ishwara also has the attributes of all the fame and glory and everything, all that. Now, this is attribute form. But even beyond that, we have actually Ishwara himself is the form of an attributeless, without any attributes. Because in that absolute state, there is no attributes at all. And that is what we call as Brahman. So Brahman is no attributes, no form, is that absolute form of that Lord is Brahman. That absolute form takes a form where he has some attributes, and that is Ishwara. That Ishwara takes a form of Krishna or Rama, and that aspect is a big macroscopic form. And in that macroscopic form, each one of us are like that bricks, which is this jiva. Okay, so that is the relation between each one of them. Now, God is just a generic name whom we can use it for Brahman, we can use it for Krishna, we can use it for Ishvara, all of them. God is just a generic name which can be used. Again, God, in a way, I think we should be happy we have a term like God, because God fits all religions, all philosophies, everybody. But when it comes to Hindu Dharma, this is how we look at it. And another thing to keep in mind is that this aspect of avatar, Krishna, all of them, avatar is very special only to the Hindu Sanatana Dharma. Even Arya Samaj, for example, Arya Samaj would believe in Brahman, the Nirguna aspect, and maybe even Ishwara, but they do not necessarily believe in Rama and Krishna as avatars. They believe them as great people who lived at a particular time. So, Amlan, what do you think? You have anything to add, or is there?
I understand that. So Brahman and then Ishwara, and then from Ishwara, Krishna and Rama. So what about then other devis, like for example, Durga, for example, Durga
Correct.
or Kali. All are basically coming from Ishwara.
Correct, exactly, from Ishwara. So Ishwara is neither male or female or anything, if you look at it from that, because it is the reason I bring that word Ish. So in Panchadasi, there's a beautiful shloka where really it is the Vishuddha Sattva. So if you look at Prakriti, which has got Sattvic, Rajasic and Tamasic attributes, so even among Sattvic, the absolute purest form of that Prakriti is actually Ishwara. And that is why I'm saying that Ishwara is with, some gunas, and that guna is that absolute, the purest Sattvic guna. And so that Ishwara takes birth as Krishna, Rama, Durga, Saraswati, Lakshmi, etc.
Okay, it's very clear now. Understand. So Ishwara, when we say, that means it's already with some guna.
With purest guna.
Guna, mainly.
And that is the guna of purity,
Purity.
Yeah.
And when we say us we generally mean jiva, right? When we say
jivas, correct. We are jivas. Yeah.
Okay, I have a question.
But so other than Brahman, so everything is then part of the Prakriti.
Exactly.
Is that a correct thing to say?
Yes, exactly. It is all part of Prakriti. And this other word
I can't hear
used,
you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So the other word for Prakriti
is... Amlan cannot hear you again.
Okay.
Is it okay, Amlan?
I could not hear you when I asked that question.
Yes.
I had two monitors. I think one of them got glitched.
Okay.
So when I was saying that, then Brahman is the one which is formless and the topmost, and then all others are part of the Prakriti then, right?
Correct. Everything is part of Prakriti, including Ishwara. Okay.
Yes, including Ishwara.
Ishwara.
So that means basically, other than Brahman, everything is already in the Maya.
Correct.
Okay, understand. Oh
yes.
My God, this is very enlightening for me. Thank you. So much.
No worries, no problem.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So sorry, this will be a little more of a kind of a discussion today, okay? I just want to warn you, even though I have prepared a couple other shlokas, but please go ahead. Go ahead, Geeta.
No, all these terms, Brahman, God, us, Krishna, all because Amlan wrote it, I think. There are
Yes.
still some more like Atma, Jivatma, Jiva and Jivatma, Ishwara and Brahman. Mainly the main ones are Brahman, Ishwara and Jiva, right?
Yes, but it is very, no, you bring up a good point, and this is Meena has brought up this also. How are they now related to Atma, Jivatma, Paramatma? That is the next. So we can definitely address that again as a discussion without overwhelming too much of terminologies. We can take that for next time, you know.
Okay. Because that wall explanation was very clear. It was very good.
Okay.
To understand, it was
Yes.
easier to understand. So I was wondering, Atma, Paramatma, Jivatma, all those are also there, which he didn't mention. I was just wondering.
Right. So the reason why I don't want to bring that today is because then we have to explain a little bit of what is Dvaitam, what is Visishta Dvaitam and Advaitam. You know, in this context, we need to understand the relation between these three terminologies in these three major philosophies of the world, and all of them are important, you know. Yeah.
So is it correct to say that Ishwara is with form?
No, Ishvara is not with form, but Ishvara is with guna. So it is saguna, but nirakara, you can say. I'm sorry, am I saying it correct? Yeah. Yeah. So Ishvara is not with form. Ishvara takes the form. Ishvara takes the form.
Okay. If
Depending,
Krishna is part of Ishwara, then Krishna has a form, right? Krishna is
has a
from
form.
Ishwara.
Correct. Yes. Yes.
So, okay.
Any other question or thought here? Is it clear or?
When we say jiva, when we say, basically we mean the subtle body, basically, right?
No, here we are referring to, so if we want to do that, then we have to say Sukshma Sharira or, no, you're right. We could say, if you want, call Jiva as the subtle body, or I don't want to use the word soul, but in some sense, you know, that aspect about ourselves, which takes one birth after the other.
Yeah.
You could call that as Jiva, but many times we define Jiva as the five things. One is Stula, Sukshma, Karana, Sharira. All three of them is there, including consciousness and the vasanas. All three of them. You know, all that, the five things are Jiva.
So sthula means the body, right?
Sthula means the physical body, yes. Physical body, the subtle body.
Then subtle body, and then Karan Sharira, then basically the causal body, and then the consciousness.
Consciousness, yes.
Now, when in all these, most of the time when we mention in the scripture, Jiva, so Jiva is basically all the time mentioned looks like the subtle body. Basically, what is that called? Antakaran. Man, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankar, basically. That four things are mentioned by this Jiva, right?
You could, yeah, but it's good to refer to Jiva as one with the physical body also, you know, that's...
Yes, sometimes it is mentioned with physical body also.
Right. Sometimes they meant to take physical body also into account. Sometimes they don't take the physical body and they stop with only the subtle body and the causal body.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so
one question.
Now, I'm sorry, go ahead.
If you say Jivatma and Paramatma, then there's a different concept, correct?
Yes, we will come to that next week, Anand, you know, with the Jivatma and Paramatma. Okay, so now I'm just going to put this picture here, and I know you're wondering from where I've gone to where, right? What is this picture doing? So suppose this is just again a reflection question, okay? Because Geeta asked this question about Maya last time, and I just wanted to, now suppose you had seen a picture like this on Facebook, okay? I'm just putting this because I want to relate it to how we look at things and everything. Suppose we were to put a picture like this on Facebook, and you're in a habit of, posting things on Facebook, and immediately, what would you say? What would you look at the picture and say? And suppose this person is your friend.
Beautiful
Happy.
picture.
Beautiful picture. No, happy, beautiful. Oh, you're so gorgeous. Oh, you have such beautiful hair and all that, right? Now, if you do that, are you truly talking about the person? Not really, right? Because you're looking at the reflection. You're looking at the reflection and you're saying that, oh my God, you're so beautiful, you're gorgeous and everything, because you're not looking at the person. So the reason I bring this up is, in today's world of Maya, we are only reflections. We're looking at reflection and we are operating in the field of reflections. We are not looking at the true self. So this is just to give you an idea of our true self is somebody else, but constantly we are looking at reflections and we are posting things on Facebook and all that, saying, oh, you're so beautiful, you're doing this. And this is very important. At some point, I want to develop this as a kind of a lecture, is that especially for many of our youth and all that, so many amount of imposter syndrome, or, these things happen because we are in this Maya world of reflection and we are constantly being cheated by illusion. So the whole idea is that we create our own reality, our own Maya. And in this Maya, we make our own judgments about things. So I just posted a couple of things from my own Facebook thing, which came, So Facebook tends to put this kind of feeds based on my reality. I look at a reality, something like this, which is posted on my Facebook, and I think my world is only this small and everything is contained in that. And I make judgment based on this. And I tend to not be happy or whatever. I forget that I'm actually part of the much, much bigger picture here. So when we were talking about Atma Maya last time, and Maya, I just a different spin of looking at what Maya means. And these terms, now slowly I want to introduce some of these terms, because the term Maya has to be really understood at some point. So anyway, did this help you in some ways to look at how we do reality? And so
very well done. Good.
Thank you. So this is, Geeta, your question sparked me into thinking like this, because I actually saw a picture of somebody on Facebook and I saw the likes and everything. And I thought to myself, we are so caught up on this reflection of us, reflection. The jiva is nothing but a reflection. We are not the true self. The true self is somebody else. Okay, so let's move on to some of the shlokas of chapter 4 today. And
so, one last question. So,
yes.
Is it not true, or do you think that is it fake that somebody is giving a comment, oh, you look beautiful, you look gorgeous, because something like that? I think sometimes it is, just for the sake of saying it's a fake comment or whatever it is. To me personally, I feel like that. Is that true or no?
See, we are living in a world, we are living in this Vyavaharik Satta, where that is our operational level. And people are at different levels of emotional maturity. For some people, it is important to say that you are looking good, you are doing it well, because that is a boost from wherever they are. Suppose somebody has, again, maybe this is not a discussion we can discuss it individually on this one, because it might, whatever I may say may be misinterpreted. I don't want that to happen. But it depends upon, sometimes you have to say you have to like people and all that. That's a different situation altogether. So it is not a fake from that point. It is not fake. So it is, yeah.
I got it. Thank you.
Okay, so we saw in chapter 4, some of the concepts where we saw the glory of the Guru Parampara mentioned. We saw the reason for having a guru in our lives. And this was very clearly brought out by Lord Krishna, starting off immediately to say the glory of the knowledge. Ultimately, the only thing that is very important is knowledge. And this knowledge has been there for a very long time. And this knowledge will always be there. And this knowledge is there. We need to tap into it. So by that, by just with this one shloka, he wanted to show the eternality of this knowledge. So by giving it to Sun, Ikshvaku and Manu, right? And then we saw he explains about how this knowledge was available for everyone. And the kings also had this knowledge. They were Kshatriyas, but they were Raja Rishis. They had this knowledge on how to govern and everything. So it was very important from that aspect too. Then, he finally said that I'm teaching you this today because over a period of time, there has been a decay of this knowledge, a decay in the sense the knowledge got hidden, got obscured. But now that you are there, O Arjuna, as a right vessel, right patra, and you have asked the question, I want to give it to you. And in that sense, I'm doing it. And it is not a secret. It is. It may sound that it is a secret, but it is only a secret from the point that people have to be ready for this knowledge. So that is why he says, I'm giving you this knowledge. You're a devotee, you're my friend, and it is a supreme secret from that point of view. So now we are discussing this aspect of this avatar hood of Krishna, where this is necessary to be said because Krishna was there in a different form before, and now he's here to give it to Arjuna. So this is again a very specific Sanatana Dharma concept. We talked about it. And Krishna has taken birth to carry out a specific task here. Now, many times, we see in our Puranic literature that these avatars have taken birth we think it's only to destroy things, right? Now you will see in this chapter, it is not just about killing somebody or destroying somebody like the way we always understand that physical killing, but there is much more to it. And that is the aspect of Dharma that we're going to be discussing in this today's session here. So Arjuna, he is asking this question about, okay, tell me, how is it that, you were born then, you were there at that time, but you are there now also? How do I really understand this aspect? And that is why this avatar concept was discussed. So one question which when Meena had asked, I forgot to say the aspect here, which is as jivas, as these individuals, we take rebirth and we kind of, maybe we can say we undergo reincarnation or whatever, but we should not look as God's aspect as a reincarnation. It is actually incarnation. He literally takes a form and he's there with us. So just a little twist on that word of reincarnation. We tend to take a rebirth or anything, but they just take special forms to come to this world to do the many things that we said. It could be to take care of teaching somebody. And here, one thing to explain, like for example, even Vedavyasa Maharishi, right? Vedavyasa Maharishi was who wrote the Mahabharata, who has written, the Bhagavad Gita now, which we are studying. He actually is also considered as an avatar because as an avatar, he came here to teach us this aspect of Dharma. And so too, this avatars we have seen, like we have the Kurma avatar, we had Varaha avatar. many of those avatars were also considered as like amsha avatars, amsha or partial avatars, where they took birth to do a specific task, just one specific task. For example, we had Kurma avatar, the turtle, for the the churning of the ocean. You had that avatar, and then you had the avatar to save Prahlad, for example. So you had different avatars who have come at different times, and that is what Krishna is trying to say. Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tavacharjuna tanyaham veda sarvani natvam veta parantapa. Now, because, as I said, avatar can be looked as this big wall where Krishna or Ishwara, when he comes as Krishna, Rama is omniscient. He knows everything. So he is aware of everything about each one of us. But each one of us, we are not aware of even our own birth from our previous lives. So that is what we saw as the difference between God and us. And then we saw that, Krishna must have sensed this question. Arjuna really didn't ask this question, but then he knows, right? He knows all our minds. So he knows the question that Arjuna asked about, why did Krishna take this avatar? So he says at that point, well, I as Ishwara, I have taken this body because though I don't need to, I have come here by taking this body, because only when I have this body, which is part of this Maya, can others understand, right? So we saw all this last time about why did we take birth? Why does Ishwara take birth? And we saw the difference between Jiva and Ishwara. And we saw this aspect of Atma Maya, because Atma meaning himself through his own Maya, through his own wanting to take this birth as a body. So now we saw the next two verses, the shlokas 7 and 8, they kind of go together, which is, we chanted both the shlokas last time. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanihi bhavati bharata abhyuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam srajam yaham. So wherever there is a decline in righteousness, and there is wherever there is, decline in righteousness and an increase in unrighteousness, at that time, he says that, he takes this birth, right? So he takes this avatar because of that. He creates himself. And then in the next shloka, he says, paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkratam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So these two shlokas, we saw it. Now, these two shlokas again brings some very great points here. Was first of all the word of what is dharma. So when we hear this term dharma, what comes to your mind? I would like to hear, how do you look at this word dharma? Because we're going to have, I have a lot of points to discuss in this word dharma, but let me hear from you.
So a minute way of saying it is doing the right things.
Doing the right things. Okay. Very good.
Standing for the truth.
Standing for the truth. Okay. Anything else?
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Performing one's duties to the best of their abilities.
Very good.
Is it the eternal and inherent nature of reality?
Eternal nature of reality. Okay. And Amma, what do you want to say, Amma? You are muted.
Nature of things.
Nature of things. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Fire is hot, sugar is sweet.
Yes.
Nature of each person.
Very good. Very good. So I think you all already got it. Maybe I don't need to go into any of this right now, because all the way from how we understand dharma as duty, which is what Suvarna said, and then, Meena said about the eternal reality, which is this, and it also the values, which Anita referred to, and ultimately what Auntie also said, Ma said about how it is the nature of the thing. So dharma is the nature of the thing. But you know how it is, right? Generally, when we hear the word dharma, we immediately think it is religion, and we think, not just religion. Immediately we think that, oh, this means I have to do this puja, I have to go to this place of worship, and so many of these things immediately comes to our mind. And sometimes because of that, we also have a negative connotation of what dharma really means. So it is really important for us to understand what dharma really means. So dharma is actually that one aspect which, as Auntie said, is the true nature of something. Like in nature, right? If you look at nature, everything about it, a particular plant, for example, you go to a rose plant will not suddenly think, I want to be a jasmine plant or something like that. It'll be a rose plant. It is truly, what a rose plant is. And if you look at, say, a particular animal, an animal will behave true to its own nature, whether it's a lion or a tiger or a simple dog or a cat or whatever. So dharma is dharyate di dharma. It comes from the word dhr, which means isness. The isness of a thing is dharma. And it is something which is an aspect of, for a human being, for example, who is so complex, who is the roof of the creation itself. The aspect for us is when we start to act according to our own intellect, not at the level of our body, not at the level of our mind, but at the level of our intellect, then at that level, we exhibit some of the best qualities, some of the best values. So what Anita said about truth, for example, when I try to live at the level of the values, at that point in time, I'm actually truly following my dharma. So the set of universal values, of truth, of non-violence, ahimsa, brahmacharya, satyam, for example, at that point in time, I'm actually going to this aspect of dharma, of trying to follow this dharma. And again, I don't know, I have so much I want to share here. I'm not sure if we can do all that aspect in this 1, 2 or 3 shlokas here. But the aspect of dharmas, if you look at from that point, when I say about the values, suppose each one of us, we were given a notepad and a pen, and we were asked to sit in a room, for example, and told that, okay, what do I want to expect from the world? What do I expect from the world? How do I expect my somebody who is very close to me to behave towards me? What would I really write in that? It may start with simple things like, okay, I want the person to be honest. I want the person to be loving. I want the person to be caring, all that, right? So those are the aspects which at a higher level, if you were to look into, they just boil down to these 3 things of satyam, truth, non-violence, which is ahimsa, and brahmacharya. So just satyam, ahimsa, and brahmacharya, these 3 fundamental values. Every value comes under that aspect. And when I live to that aspect, I'm actually following my dharma. So this aspect is what Lord Krishna is trying to show to Arjuna, how, when that aspect of dharma is not followed. So yada yada hi dharmasya glanihi bhavati bharata abhyuttanam adharmasya. That when that is not followed, at that point he takes birth. So we will go into a little more, definitely much more details about these two shlokas together next time, because again, I want to give some more examples from our Puranas, from the examples, say, for example, from Harishchandra, King Harishchandra, who was an embodiment of truth, from Yudhishthira, who had talked about this, to really understand this aspect of dharma. Sorry that, we couldn't get into this aspect, but I'm looking at the watch. It's just another minute to 9:30 in US. But any thoughts here which you want to be addressed on this aspect of dharma? And we will start off with this aspect of dharma and adharma. And also the second shloka, which talks about paritranaya sadhuna. There's a very powerful thing which Bhagavan Shankaracharya has talked about it, which I want to also bring it, and then move on to the next two shlokas. So,
you said three things for dharma: satyam, brahmacharya. What is the second thing? I just forgot.
Ahimsa.
Oh, non-violence. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So at the level of, you can literally look at the level of body, mind, and intellect, So dharma is literally following a set of universal values at the level at where we are. So following that set of universal values is really our nature as a human being. So we will, a lot of things which I forgot to change my date here, but we will meet next week at the same time. Okay. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kasyat dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Thank you very much. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om.
Thank you, Sai.
Hari Om.
Thank you.
Hari Om. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Next
Hari
week
Om.
we go directly into the topics. Yeah.
Radhe Radhe.
Thank you.
I will